HSR's 3.6 story brought us Evernight and an alternate form for Dan Heng, but for what I thought were supposed to be pretty exciting characters, I felt that the story for 3.6 was pretty underwhelming overall. I think the main issue for me personally was that the story felt more like two different character story quests disguised as a main story quest, and it didn't really feel like we were in Emphorius. Starting with Evernight, I actually thought the initial portrayal of her character was pretty good. Her desire to preserve March and her companions, no matter the cost, is shown pretty clearly through her actions and dialogue. When she wrestles you away from Sunday, she makes it pretty clear that she believes, at least she knows what's best for you, and it creates a sense of mystery that makes you question her actions and what she knows. But since the beginning of Emphorius, there's been this huge build-up to March's involvement with Emphorius, which happens to end up being Evernight. So when she kind of just disappears at the end of the story, it just feels really anticlimactic. They made Evernight seem like such an integral part of March, but we essentially only get to interact with her for one patch, and then who knows how long it'll be until we see her again. At least March's reunion afterwards with the rest of the Astral Express crew was nice and emotional, because I think it's an important moment that a lot of people are waiting for, but Evernight's whole character arc overall in this patch just felt really disappointing for me, based on my expectations. Moving on to Dan Heng, I think if you're not a huge Dan Heng fan, this part of the story probably drags on for you a little bit, which I definitely felt. There's a strange, heavy emphasis on Dan Heng's past in a way that almost detracts from the main Emporia story because of how long it just focuses on all the Shenzhou characters. But other than that, I thought this part of the main story had some good moments, like when Dan Heng finally inherits the Core Flame and saves the Trailblazer, and also the cool little cinematic he gets. Although that being said, I am also going to reiterate a point from a past video about character expressions in normal scenes needing improvement, because having to stare at a near still image of Terravox for like 20 minutes while he just yaps is kinda unacceptable at this point. But besides all the major character stuff, there are a couple of minor points that I want to make also. For one, I enjoy beating Kafka and getting more lore that ties into the Honkai Star Rail story as a whole, because I think those moments are kind of the most exciting parts about the Honkai Star Rail story. Also, I didn't really enjoy the whole library section because it just ends up being an exposition dump and it kind of gets repetitive after a while, even though it's supposed to signify the grueling role that Cyrene has took on throughout all the cycles. I kind of just wish they got the information across in a more engaging way rather than Dan Heng and the Trailblazers kind of just talking to each other and looking at the past projections and listening to the voices. The boss fight at the end of all of that also felt really random too, because they were setting it up to make it actually seem like you were gonna fight Evernight, but instead you kind of just end up fighting this ugly creature, and I hate how there's just so much wasted potential here, and I felt really disappointed after that. And yeah, I think that sums up my whole experience with the story this patch, because I came into 3.6 with high expectations, but it kind of felt like the story just took a few steps backwards. And if I had to rate my personal enjoyment of the 3.6 story overall, I'd probably have to give it like a 4 out of 10. And I'm also losing faith that the ending of Emphorius will be both satisfying and exciting, because while I think they can do one or the other, with the story writing being how it was in this patch, I just have a hard time believing they'll be able to do both. But I hope I'm proven wrong though, because I do want the game to succeed, but I guess we'll see next patch. Thanks for watching.